Hi, meteorologist John Dawson. This is the Fox 26 YouTube Tropical Update. Glad you're clicking in, glad you're joining us, and I know you're wanting to get all the details of what's happening out in the Gulf of Mexico. And continuing, we're just going to have to sort of say not a whole lot is happening out there as far as tropical formation goes. Not much has changed, and for the city of Houston, our rain chances might have even decreased just a little bit. But a quick review again, as we've been watching Invest 95L, which is sort of the formal identification that the Hurricane Center is using for this. Really tracked it just off the coast of Louisiana, this disorganized broad area of low pressure. It kind of wandered around, so I don't want us to think that this is technically a tropical system when I put its historical track on here, because it hasn't really been a really well-defined track. It's kind of wandered around. When you get those broader areas of low pressure, it kind of re-intensifies, not much, but it kind of around a little bit. And then what really got even interesting is that this is where the main center of that broad area of low pressure is. But just off the coast this morning, another little spin up happened. So this is, again, one of these systems that doesn't have a lot of organization to it. It kind of kicked off just a little extra spin, and you can even sort of see that here. Even within the last hour or so of our radar imagery, there's a little bit of that spin happening. So it kind of kicked off its own little spin that really brought in the rain to the coastal areas in the Fox 26 viewing area this morning. But this is still what the Hurricane Center is focused on. This is still what they're talking about, and this is our tropical update, so I guess that's what I'll be spending most of our time talking about. All the computer models still running off the best, most centered point that it can find. The hurricane hunters did fly this earlier today. Really didn't find a whole lot. I think that center of circulation was still more or less there. Our computer models have begun to shift a little to the east as far as that center point goes, but remember, all of the rain so far has been well to the east and well to the northeast as well from that center of circulation. So if it continues to follow one of these tracks more or less straight north close to Houston, we're still expecting all the rain to stay over on the east side of that. So that means the city of Houston will be getting less rain. If it were to head over further to the west, then that would bring some of that rain over. And because it's already somewhat beginning to interact a little bit with the land, when you see that wrap around, we won't have a lot of wrap around where we get rain on the west side, because it's coming across all the land that there's not any moisture, there's no water to help kind of fuel that. So this is still the pattern as we look at a forecasted track, if you want to call these models, kind of where it could possibly going. All of the rain over here on the east side expected to stay on the east side of wherever that track might be. And again, the closer it's centered on Houston, the less rain would actually come to Houston. So we're beginning to see some of those expectations of rain drop a little bit. I do want to stress that they're not dropping completely, and that there is still a flood watch for some coastal counties in the Houston area. But generally speaking, you can see here, switching back to the radar, where most of that rain is at. And that's a lot of this is from that extra little spin up, that extra little low that formed as this center of that bigger low pressure, the Hurricane Center, the actual 95L, as it continues to move in, it'll start dragging in a little bit more of that moisture. So we're still expecting here in Houston some more rain to be headed this direction. But officially, the Hurricane Center for 95L, they're still going to give it a 40% chance of possible development. It's running out of time, though, for sure, as far as what it has left to potentially develop into a tropical system. But this for sure continues to be a rainmaker. It's just, is that rain going to stay out in the Gulf, or is it going to creep a little bit closer? And it'll be a pretty fine line as far as where it is going to rain and where it's not going to rain. So just a quick sort of review on what's happening with 95L. It's still not a tropical cyclone, so we'll call it just an area of disturbed weather. It's a spot that the Hurricane Center continues to watch. They give it that 40% chance. It's still tracking pretty much to the north at this point. Not expecting this to be a problem with with winds or storm surge or tornadoes or any of those other threats that a tropical cyclone brings. It's going to be strictly a rainmaker at this point. And that flood watch is going to be for those coastal counties in the Houston area. And it does include Harris County as well, which is sometimes you consider the coastal county and sometimes it's maybe not so much a coastal county, but it doesn't consider Harris County as part of that through Friday. About 7 p.m. is when that officially will end. And that concludes our discussion of what we expect 95L to do. Yes, post-tropical cyclone or potential Tropical Cyclone 2 is still out there. Still potential, not showing a lot of potential, but it's hanging in there. And this is really going to be an interesting scenario because we've been talking about this for several days now, that we expect maybe within 24 hours that this would become a tropical storm. And that's still what the National Hurricane Center is forecasting. But the longer it waits, the longer it might not be an Atlantic system, because if it doesn't get its tropical characteristics by the time it makes landfall, most likely it would transfer over to the Pacific side of things, and then that would begin to take things over. So it'll be a little bit interesting as we watch this system as it continues to move across the western edges of the Caribbean, and we'll see exactly what it can do. But forecast right now, at least, says it will become a tropical storm, and we've been talking about the names as well, right? The next name on the list is Bonnie. So if it gets a name, we'll call it Bonnie. There's still a very slight chance, or officially a 40% chance, according to the Hurricane Center, that 95L could become tropical. If it would become a storm, then it would get the Bonnie name. So it's still a little bit of a competition on who can get to the name Bonnie first. But at this point, I think if it gets there, it would be potential Tropical Cyclone 2 that would get there. And then it has to do that before it really makes that landfall into Central America. So we'll see how that goes as well. I would like you to pick up that smartphone right now and punch in @JohnDawson Fox 26 on Instagram. I'm looking to connect on Instagram for a couple different reasons, but definitely because of the hurricane preparedness. I want us to be using this sort of discussion of the tropics as a reminder of things are getting active, and we know there are going to continue to be more systems as we move through the rest of the season. So pick up your smartphone, go to Instagram, punch in @JohnDawson Fox 26. It would be great if you follow me. I've got continual advice on what you can do to prepare, some things to think about for hurricane season. And I also have some things about my garden, my backyard garden in there, but that's just a little bit of a different scenario. But if you want to connect there as well, that would be awesome. Twitter, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, great to connect there as well. And make sure to get that Fox 26 weather app prepared as part of your hurricane preparedness. Download it onto your phone. Of course, go to your favorite app store and get that anytime you can.